So today we're going to do the 2-year review of the Toyota Tacoma. The one I bought is a 2022, and I've had it for 2 years now. And we're going to talk about, what's been good about it, what's been bad about it, what kind of wear and tear has happened during those 2 years, like tire wear and other things, and how things kind of held up for, 2 years of beating on this truck. Because, I'm not easy on this truck. I take it to off-road courses, and we give it a pretty good workout. So let's get started on this. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the rock sliders. Now, I know I was the person too that didn't think I needed the rock sliders, and they're a very expensive, investment on your truck. And, I went off-roading before, and I really didn't need them, but I was close on needing them. But I ended up buying them anyway, and I'm glad I did, because I hit a rock that was about yay high, and it would have banged up my rocker pretty good on that day. But a few weeks ago, I went in a snowstorm, and did something stupid. I went on an off-road course during a snowstorm, and it was so slick. I slid into a tree. The tree whacked into the side of the truck, and if it wasn't for the rock sliders, the door would have been caved in. It would have cost me, thousands of dollars to repair this truck, but the rock sliders saved it. So if you're going to go on an off-road course or pretty good off-road areas, invest in a set of rock sliders, because they will save you money. Now let's talk about tires on the truck. So from the factory, you get a 31-inch tire on these trucks, and that's the off-road edition version. I went and put a 32-inch tire on it, and I've been loving it ever since. 32-inch tire really goes well with this truck. It has good knobbies. The brand I got is the Cooper Evolution MT. So these tires have really treated me well. It's the 265/75 R16. And like I said, I have 20,000 miles on this truck, and the tread is maybe half done. So I'll probably end up getting 36,000 miles out of it before I got to change them out. And 36,000 is a fair amount for, tires nowadays. So that's pretty good, especially for MT tires. And I know they're all-terrain MT, but in reality, they're MT. So these tires have really done me well. Now, a trick, of course, to make these tires last long is not go crazy out there on off-road courses. Make sure that you are taking it easy. You're not pounding into rocks, So take it easy on off-road courses, and you'll keep a good alignment. And a good alignment means you'll keep a good tire. Now, it's only 2 years old, but I know we want to talk a little bit about interior. And for a 2-year-old truck, it's holding up great. I've never cleaned it out on the inside, as you can tell, and it's taking it. I mean, there's no real wear and tear on the truck. The interior is holding up. The cloth seats are pretty good. Everything seems to be holding up. And I think it, has a lot to do with that the interior panels are plastic. They're hard plastic. A lot of the dash panels are plastic, so it just takes a nice beating for, what it's doing out there. So interior-wise, these things are really, really nice. Now, here's an add-on thing I added, because these Tacomas don't have anything here. They have a giant pit for their center console, and you can buy this thing. It's just a nice extra shelf for your center console. Now, I believe out of the small truck market, the Tacoma wins on this. So they have tons of storage. I keep my bags here for, groceries. But they have these compartments under here that you can put a lot of stuff in here. I got my first aid kit, jack, and some air pumps and things on the other side. So like I said, it does a really good job of having storage. Even back here, I got my toolkit for emergencies, duct tape, of course, for emergencies. And behind the other seat, there is a ton of room too, which again, is for, off-road recovery gear. So I think Tacoma really wins on the amount of storage areas they have. So let's talk a little bit about skid plates. For one thing, you got to expect these things to take some dents. Don't worry about the dents. They're going to take a little bit of a beating. Just make sure you got enough spacing behind it so that when it does take a beating, it's not going to smash into your front differential or something like that. But you do need skid plates if you're going off-roading. They just save you and they make you feel a little safer out there. The same goes for a skid plate for your transmission and your transfer case. Make sure you get a nice, skid plate for this area, because you're just going to feel a little better when you're off-roading, knowing that your transmission and transfer case are protected out there. Another skid plate I bought, and it's not necessary, but it was nice to have too, and that is a skid plate for your rear differential. It probably loses a little bit of ground clearance, maybe I would say a 1/4 inch of ground clearance loss, but it's worth it. This thing skids right across rocks. Doesn't make me nervous. I love that little skid plate. So one thing Toyota Tacoma is known for is a good drivetrain, and this engine is awesome. It's the V6 engine. It takes a beating. It has a little bit of a weird RPM to horsepower range, but like I said, it takes a beating. It's fine. It does great on off-roading, and like I said, 20,000 miles. Never washed the area. As you can tell, it's still all dirty, but it does what it needs to do. It does the work, and what can I say? It just runs. Starts every time. Starts clean. Good engine. Good drivetrain for it. Now, one part people always wonder about Tacomas, and that is, if you put a lift kit or you put a puck kit on these, how rougher is the ride quality of these things? And as you can see on mine, I got the 2-inch puck kit, which is like, I think it's 3/4 of an inch, which puts 2 inches of lift on the wheel. And I got a block kit on the rear. And people say, is it going to ride rougher? How much difference is it going to be? And no matter what, it's going to ride rougher. But that block kit does very minimal for making it ride rougher. It probably made it ride, I'm going to say, a 4% difference in how much roughness it is when you're driving down the road. The biggest difference in how much it's going to be vibrating is your tires. These tires are big MT tires. They're 10 ply, so they can take a beating, but also 10 ply means this sidewall is really thick. So this tire is what's making this truck ride rough. If you didn't get a 10 ply tire, then your truck is not going to ride rough. You can get a big 32-inch tire, get the regular one, not the 10 ply, and your truck's going to drive just fine down the road. So that's my suggestion. If you want a good truck with a lift and a good big tire, get the puck kit, but make sure you don't get a 10 ply tire unless you want it to ride rough. So that pretty much sums everything up on the Toyota Tacoma. Like I said, I got 20,000 miles on this truck, and it's 2 years old now, and it just drives great. I mean, it just drives down the road great. Everything about it I really like. Probably the only thing I don't like about it is I think it could use a little more room, and of course, the seats aren't as comfortable. I'm 6'4", and being tall, the seats are a little less comfortable on a long trip. I got a seat cushion that helps me out on a long trip, but like I said, it's not the greatest comfort on long trips. And that's pretty much my biggest complaints. The seats and the cabin's just a little tight, but when you're buying a mid-sized truck, there's not much you can do about that. The thing I love about this truck, it rides really well. I mean, even with 10 ply tires on it, this truck rides smooth down the road. And a big joke that my buddy with the Jeep told me, he said, I probably got this wrong, but he said that the first 6 months, a Jeep owner will say, hey, this thing's a convertible, that's cool. Then the next 6 months, they're going to say, hey, the doors come off, that's pretty cool too. And then a year and a half later on, they're going to say, man, this thing rides rough, I'm going to trade it in. So that's my little joke on Jeeps for today. You don't get that on a Tacoma, but you don't get doors and you don't get a convertible. So, it's a trade-off. My personal opinion, I like the ride, and it just rides down the road smooth. And I tow a 18-foot RV travel trailer, and it just cruises down the road. The RV is actually 21 feet when you add the tongue to it. So it just cruises down the road with it. I have no sway out of that thing. I drove through a windstorm, and this truck just handled it just fine. Another neat feature that Toyota Tacoma has, and you'll have to check this with your make and model that you ordered or purchased, but they have something called sway control in the rear that the truck will sense when there's swaying going on in the rear, and it's supposed to lock down one of the tires a little more to counter any swaying that's going on. So that might be why I never really find any sway when I'm towing a travel trailer with this truck. I do have sway control bars on the truck too, so that helps also. But again, I was through a 60-mile-an-hour windstorm. It was a big windstorm, and of course, we all had to slow down. We were going 55 mile an hour, but it drove right through it, and I get a little bit of sway through that big windstorm, but it did it. So I really like this truck. The only problem with towing is when you're going up hills, you can't really use cruise control because you have to kind of feather the gas a little bit because it wants to downshift a lot. So that's the only complaint about towing with a Toyota Tacoma. But overall, I love this truck. It's done a really good job of everything, driving smooth. Just been a really good truck for the last 2 years, and I'll keep y'all posted with how everything else is going with it. So if you like what we're doing, please subscribe because you all make it happen, and we'll see you next episode.